This is episode 274 of Jumblethink.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Jumblethink, where we interview amazing dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers, all about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, if you haven't subscribed to Jumblethink, right now is the best time to do it. So go on over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts, search for Jumblethink, and click subscribe. While you're there, leave a rating and review so that others will know what you think of the show too. Now let's jump into today's conversation. Hey there, welcome to Jumblethink. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get rolling, we want to thank our friends over at Penji. Penji is your source for unlimited graphic design at a low monthly subscription. As a listener of Jumblethink, they are giving you 15% off your first month. Head on over penji.co, use the code JUMBLE, and get that 15% off your first month. Well, are you ready? Are you ready for a great episode? Because I think we have an incredible show lined up for you today. The last two episodes, we've done something a little different. We've taken questions from our listeners. We've taken questions that have been asked of me on Quora. And before that, we had a lot of guest episodes. We had guest episodes from Podcast Row, from some amazing entrepreneurs from Republic. Today, we're changing it up, and we're getting back to something we haven't done in a while. We're doing a topical episode. That's not the only thing we're doing. We're also talking about the future of Jumblethink, upcoming guests that you have to look forward to. We're going to be taking a couple more of your questions, and then we're diving into our topic all about perseverance. Before we get rolling on that, I have a question for you. Are you enjoying fall? I know I am. Fall is my favorite time of year. I love that change of seasons from summer into fall, with the changing of leaves, with the apple cider, with all the festivals that are going on, getting back into routine and exploring the world around me. I love fall from the day it starts the whole way through. New Year's, I know that's probably pushing into winter, but that whole season, I love it. So I want you to think about today what you're doing in this new season. Yeah, we're going into a new season of the physical, fall. And then that's followed, of course, by winter, by spring, by summer, and we just go through that cycle. But there are seasons of life. There are seasons of hardship. There are seasons of joy. There are seasons of amazing breakthroughs. There are seasons. So what is the season you're entering right now? It seems to me, as I talk to people, as I hear their stories, as I see what's going on social media, through posts from people that I don't have face-to-face contact, a common thread is going on. That thread is simple, that lives are changing in dramatic ways in this season. Maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's a new location. Maybe it's a new venture of entrepreneurship. I'm seeing over and over and over again from many, many people that they are entering a new season of life. So for you, I want you to take a moment today and think about what you're doing. What's going on in your life? What's happening around you? What does this season look like? How is it changing? What does it mean for you? And then I want you to think about what you can do to make this season the best season of your life. Every day we have a choice. Every season we have a choice to fully embrace and step into the fullness of what is ahead of us. Sometimes it's hardship, sometimes it's blessing. No matter where it is, we can still make it the best season of our life. I want you to think about what matters to you. For me, it's family, it's friends, it's enjoying the present, it's being present in the present and not always looking to the future, which is hard for me because I'm always looking towards what's next, where are we going, what's happening. But for me, I'm taking this season to say, I want to be present in the life of my kids, the time I get to spend with my wife, the time I get to spend with my parents and my siblings and the people around me, whether it's people at church or people in the entrepreneur community or friends through this podcast. It's to be present and really engaged in the relationships that I have around me. For me, this new season also looks like stepping out and taking more risk about the guests that we get, getting more into the things that we want to create, including idea camps and really taking the risks to say, you know what, I see a future that's bright, and today I'm going to make the steps to make the future happen, but I'm going to be present here today as it unfolds. So before we really step into today's topic all about perseverance, I wanted you to think about that. What does this season mean for you, and how are you living it to the fullness? What does it mean for you to truly engage in life today? Truly engage in the present. For some of you, that means getting over the past, which is hard to do. And some of you, it means not waiting for one day, but living today. Wherever you are in your season of life, I encourage you to make it the best life that you've ever had, the best day of your life ever, and really engage fully in the season you're at. So that's my challenge for you today. If you get nothing else out of today's show, I hope that little nugget of thinking about where you're at right now and being present is super helpful. I know it's something I struggle with, and it's something that I have to think about, keep at the forefront of my mind so that I'm intentional about it. So hopefully it helps you too. In a moment, we're going to dive into what's the future of Jumble Think and some incredible guests that we have coming on in the next couple episodes. Before we do that, being that we are focused on entrepreneurship as a whole, I thought it would be really fun to answer some questions that recently came in to our email inbox. They're all questions about entrepreneurship. All three of them are questions I think we should answer. So we're going to kick it off and ask these questions and answer them for you. First off, how do you define entrepreneurship? This question shocks me because over and over again, I hear different interpretations of what entrepreneurship is. And most people would think, isn't this a clear-cut thing? Don't you know what entrepreneurs are? I think that for me, the problem lies, what is the difference between a businessman or businesswoman and an entrepreneur? It seems like, isn't a business person an entrepreneur? And the answer to that is not necessarily. Often they are, but many times they're not. I think that the main difference is a business person is hyper-focused on one thing, the running of a business. They may go, hey, I have a car shop, and that's their business, and they're a business person. Whereas an entrepreneur is a little bit different because they come in and say, I'm going to create businesses, or I have many ideas swirling in my head and I'm going to go create those different things. And I think that that's the main difference, is that a business person is hyper-focused on the one task at hand, the business that they're running, the avenue of their business. Maybe they're in finance, so they're hyper-focused on finance, whereas an entrepreneur is about many things. They have many businesses they're running or many ideas that they're processing. I think the other thing is that entrepreneurs are much more big picture focused than a traditional business person. And there's nothing wrong with either. I want to make sure that that's clear. But an entrepreneur is kind of more visionary, whereas a business person is more organizationally focused. And what I mean by that is that the business person is focused on an organization, a structure, an individual entity that they work with, whereas an entrepreneur might be going, oh, I've got this business going on over here. I'm working on this startup. I've got this thing happening. And so they're multifaceted when it comes to the big picture. Now, as a business person, they might be more focused on the nuts and bolts, whereas an entrepreneur might be focused more on the visioning of what they're creating. Not to say that the two don't twine together. They do intertwine quite a bit. There are a lot of entrepreneurs that are hyper-focused on a specific task that they're doing, and then once that's going, they either sell that off or they set up systems and structures that run the business so that they can go step into the next thing. There are a lot of business people that are entrepreneurial. And so the two go hand in hand, but they are delineated. And I think the key to defining entrepreneurship is very simple. It's a person who is always seeing the potential of the future and they're creating it. And that could be one business, that could be many businesses, but they're in that service of starting many things over the course of a short period of time or even a long period of time. So that's how I would define entrepreneurship. It's not your traditional definition, but that's how I would look at it. Our second question is this: how can kids learn entrepreneurial skills? I think this is a brilliant, brilliant question. We are facing a shift in how work and workforce environment looks, and a lot of people are leaving the workforce. So how better to set up our kids for success, then give them the skills to be able to be self-starters. And I think that that's one of the main things that stands out when I compare America versus the rest of the world, is that a lot of people in a lot of countries are about just kind of getting into their groove, whereas Americans are always about pushing the envelope of what they're creating. Not saying that there aren't entrepreneurs in Europe or in Asia. There is a lot of entrepreneurship going on in Asia right now, but I would say that this is where America kind of has had the edge for a long time, is that they don't settle into just like, hey, I'm satisfied with the status quo. And this is broad strokes, and I'm not talking about everyone, but as a whole, America embraces that more. So how can kids learn about entrepreneurial skills? I think the first thing is that we have to challenge our kids to think outside of the box. So they come to us with a problem. Instead of just giving them the answer, maybe give them some tools to answer that question on their own. Point them in the right direction and let them figure it out. There are a lot of kids that are coming in and saying, hey, I have a great idea. Maybe it's for a YouTube channel. Maybe it's for a business. And they're just going, I think it'd be really fun to create. Nurture that. Be there. Help support. Give them the tools to do that. Help them create. There are other kids who may just want some way to create more money. And instead of us just giving them money, we give them a challenge to help raise their own money. Maybe it's, if you solve this problem, we'll give you X amount of dollars. Or maybe this summer, instead of just doing what you typically do, sitting behind your phone or a television, take some time as a kid to go out there and start a lemonade stand or something like that, which is becoming more controversial. I don't know why cities and municipalities are being really strict on that. It's kind of silliness to me, but whatever. So challenge them to figure out creative ways to fund their own dreams and ideas. If they want a specific toy, give them the resources to fundraise their own funds and help them cultivate that. And then the last thing I would say about this is foster a sense of curiosity. One of the things that we do poorly as adults is that we often don't like to be inconvenienced. And when a child, our kid or your kid comes to you, instead of being like, oh, stop asking me these questions, maybe go on a journey with them and partner with them to discover the answers. Don't just give it away and just be like, oh, there's your answer, go away. But really wrestle with them about the question that they're asking and help them self-illuminate the answer through the research that they do, through the conversation you have, and ask really good questions and make them dig deeper into the questions that they want answered or the things that they want to do or the places that they want to achieve. The other thing is simply talk about what it means to be an adult and have ideas and dreams and what that means for them. Talk to them about their dreams. Ask them, what are your dreams? What are your ideas? What are the things you want to create? And make that normal. Make that an okay conversation to have. There are a lot of people that are like, hey, just do what you're supposed to do. But instead, with your kids, make them think and ask questions that are critical to their success. And lastly, I would say don't overburden them with things that you think that they should do. Our society is all about like, hey, you should be on the soccer team and the basketball team and baseball, and maybe you should do water polo or swimming or this or that. And we are overtaxing our children, both in the extracurricular things that they do, like they should be experts at everything, which is the dumbest thing in the world. But we also overload them in how we teach them. Let them self-guide their teaching a little bit. Let them explore the things that they want to learn about and help them nurture that. And instead of overwhelming them with useless information or things that they aren't really interested in, really step back and allow them to launch into the things that interest them, that burn a passion in their soul and in their heart, and help them engage with that to really launch. So those are some ways I think that you can help give them some skills to help them on that journey. And our final question from our audience today that we're going to be answering is, why is entrepreneurship considered a lonely journey? We've talked about this a lot in guest episodes. We've talked about this a little bit in topical episodes. There is a saying that only kings and queens know what kings and queens know. And I think that the main reason that a lot of people say entrepreneurship is a lonely journey is that entrepreneurs get hyper-focused on where they're at and what they're doing. they are focused on being in their own journey, that they self-isolate from the rest of the community. And it's hard to communicate what's going on if you're an entrepreneur to those people around you who aren't entrepreneurs, because they don't get it. Like, hey, why don't you just go get a job? And you're going, yeah, but this is my job. This is what I do. Or they think that, hey, you're an entrepreneur, so you must be really rich, or you must be really lazy because you don't really work hard. And all of those misconceptions lead to a place of loneliness and isolation, because if people don't understand you, then how can you really communicate what's going on internally, what the struggles are, because they don't get it. So why is entrepreneurship lonely? That's part of it. But I think the other part is that they're not in communities of other entrepreneurs. And I'm seeing this shift. Maybe it's the WeWork culture of co-working, where you're around other people who are startup founders or are entrepreneurs or have their own small businesses. And you can start to really do that journey together and communicate in the same language of what you're experiencing, the challenges you're facing, the joys you're experiencing, and you can collectively do that journey together. And so part of entrepreneurship is getting around the right people who understand you, who think differently, who embrace the different in you. And the reason that's lonely is that I think a lot of people don't understand you, and that we're isolated from other entrepreneurs. You can change that and make your journey less lonely. So that's my encouragement to you in this process, is to really step back and think about what is it that we can be doing to make the journey of entrepreneurship less lonely. And you can do it. So those are some thoughts around that. Those are our 3 questions today. In a moment, we're going to be back. We're going to be talking about the future of Jumblethink. We're going to be talking about our topic today, which is perseverance. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Today's show is presented by our friends over at Penji. Penji helps startups, agencies, small businesses, big corporations, and marketing teams achieve more with unlimited graphic design support at one flat monthly rate. Their easy-to-use online platform pairs you with a professional designer and lets you create as many design projects as you want. Think of it as your monthly subscription to top-notch design with no contracts, no hourly billing, just fast, simple, and affordable graphic design for all of your needs. Simply use the code JUMBLE, JUMBLE, to get 15% off your first month at Penji, PENJI.co. That's Penji.co. Use that code JUMBLE. Now let's jump back into today's conversation. And we are back. We're going to be talking about perseverance in a little bit. Before we do that, we're going to take a moment and talk a little bit about what's going on here at Jumblethink. 2019 has been a crazy year, a very, very good year. We kicked off the year being a part of New Media Summit in Tampa, Florida. That was our second New Media Summit. A lot of fun, meeting incredible people. Then in June, we connected with Podcast Row. We've been a part of the first 3 Podcast Row, and this October 3rd, this week, we are going to be partnering with Podcast Row and Propelify in Hoboken, New Jersey. If you have any ideas or dreams of being an entrepreneur, you need to be at Propelify. Go check it out, propelify.com, and you can learn more about that and show up at that event. It has been a crazy year of really good guests, and we continue to have lots of people reach out. So here is the deal. When we started out Jumblethink back in 2017, all those years ago, we started out with a simple purpose: to interview amazing dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers, people who were changing the world. Somewhere along the way, we started being hyper-focused on entrepreneurship. As we've talked to some of our listeners, we've realized there are 2 kinds of people we serve. We serve those people who just like hearing the stories of amazing people who are turning dreams and ideas into reality. And then we found that there was a pocket of people who are entrepreneurs that found our show really encouraging about their journey of entrepreneurship, and they were able to connect with that. And so what we're doing is that in the next couple of months, we're going to be transitioning into 2 shows. We're going to continue doing Jumblethink and getting back to the basic DNA, which is we talk to dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers, and we have crazy cool guests lined up. You're going to be hearing about those guests in the weeks to come. I'll tease one out. We have LeVar Burton coming on, Reading Rainbow, Star Trek, and much, much more. And we have some other really killer guests lined up for you. Now, we don't want to leave those entrepreneurs behind because we feel that that is an important part of our DNA here at JumbleThink. So what does that mean? That means that our second show is going to be hyper-focused on entrepreneurship. So we are going to be talking about entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking to entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking all about entrepreneurship and what that means and looks like. So you're going to be hearing a lot of crazy cool interviews from startup founders from the Platform Republic. You're going to be hearing from incredible people from Podcast Row and other entrepreneurs along the way. One other big change that we're making is for JumbleThink. To be on JumbleThink, not only do you have to be a crazy cool dreamer, maker, innovator, or influencer, we're also doing all those interviews in person, and we're highly curating the guests that we're getting. So this is going to be the pinnacle of JumbleThink. And then our new entrepreneur show, which we're working on a title. It's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be focused more around everyday entrepreneurs and some big entrepreneurs too. But we're going to be getting into the weeds of what that looks like. Super, super excited about both shows and what we're bringing to the table to better serve you, our listener. And if you're listening on the radio, you're going to actually hear one episode of JumbleThink and one episode of the new show per week. So you're going to be hearing a little bit of both, and you're going to want to make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything going on there. So who are some of the new guests that we have lined up for the show? Well, Corey Zeidel, he is the founder of a new tech startup focused on being a legal platform to help people get the justice that they long for. It's a super cool startup. We're going to be talking about that and about redefining what it means to get justice. We're going to be talking to Elizabeth Lewis. She is behind Brand, Style, and Bloom. They're talking about how your personal style and your branding go hand in hand and how they're helping entrepreneurs do better at that. We're going to be talking to Brandon Youst. He is the founder of Urban Farm Academy. They're teaching everyday people on how they can get involved in growing their own food and then how they can actually turn that into a business. We had an incredible guest earlier on this year all about agriculture. It was a super fun conversation. They have a company called Brooklyn Grange. Check out that episode. This is more of that, but it's at the personal level instead of at the corporate level. It's super, super cool. And then we're going to be talking to Kirat Anand. He is the founder of KAS New York, a fashion brand, a lifestyle brand, and they've been doing really good. He just exited his business, sold it, and is doing really cool things. We're going to be talking about that. We also talked to Zach Slingsby. He is the founder of Human Factor Media. Fun conversation. We talk about the saturation of content creation and much more. And then we are talking to Charles Malbauer. He is an expert on sales. And so we talk about what your business is doing wrong in sales. These are just some of the conversations we have coming up. We have lots more entrepreneurs lined up for you. And you're not going to want to miss any of those conversations. So now we've talked a little bit about the future of the JumbleThink podcast. We've talked about some of the guests we have coming on. What about one of the things we're most excited about? That's idea camps. We started out planning idea camps earlier this year to launch in October of this year. Unfortunately, just due to some logistics, we're having to push that back to 2020. Why? Because we want to make the event perfect for the people who are coming. What is Idea Camps? Idea Camps are an event to help you go from an idea or dream or the early stages of your startup into a strategy to make it into a full-fledged business. We are not just doing a rah-rah, encourage you, fun time, although it's going to have those elements. We're also going to do some practical teaching, giving you the nuts and bolts of actually making it a reality. And we're going one step further. We're going to do mastermind groups to help you give you that actual real world strategy for your business tailored to you so that when you leave the event, you're walking away with a plan for the future. If you want to get a taste of what idea camps are all about, we are doing a virtual idea camp and we're making it super affordable, very easy to do. It's just going to be a couple hours. It's coming in November. Here's what you need to do to be the first to know when we're launching it. Head on over to jumblethink.com/ideacamps jumblethink.com/ideacamps. Sign up for the newsletter there and you will stay in the loop. That's coming early November before we get into the weeds of Thanksgiving and everything like that. It's a couple hours to help you in the journey of turning those dreams and ideas into reality. If you love that event, you're going to love the real world face-to-face idea camps coming in the spring of 2020. Now, I'm going to ask you for a big favor right here. If you're listening and you know a person with big ideas and dreams, a person who's always talking about one day they're going to do something really crazy and cool, or they're sharing about how they've always wanted to be a startup founder, or maybe they just have a bucket list item and they're not sure how to make it happen, and they're always talking about it, and you're kind of like, well, you got to go do it, dude. This is awesome. Well, I want to encourage you right now to share idea camps with them. Idea camps are going to help them really go past the idea and into making it a reality. So share it with the people you know. Maybe it's a family member or a friend or a coworker or a fellow coach on your kids' sports team, whoever it may be. If you know that dreamer who is holding back from making the leap, let them know about idea camps. It would mean the world to me if you would just share it with one person this week. All right, so what have we done in today's show so far? We've talked about 3 questions about entrepreneurship, answering real-world questions from real-world listeners. We have talked about JumbleThink, about some of the upcoming guests, about idea camps, and about the future of the podcast and radio show. Now, what are we going to do? We are going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to dive into a conversation, a very, very important conversation about the power of perseverance. We would love to connect with you and hear your story, your comments, and your thoughts on episodes of JumbleThink. How can you do it? Head on over to jumblethink.com and you'll find links to our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram accounts. Doing the journey of entrepreneurship is hard. Don't do it alone. Let's be friends and let's chase our dreams and ideas together. Head on over jumblethink.com, click on those links, and let's connect. Now let's talk about the power of perseverance. We are back and talking about the power of perseverance. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's a topic that recently just became re-illuminated to me. And so I thought I would share it to you to let you know about how perseverance is so important in the journey of entrepreneurship, about big ideas, and about dreaming. So what is perseverance? Well, Merriam-Webster defines it as this: continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failures, or opposition. The action or condition or an instance of persevering. Steadfastness. In the definition, they use the word, so we're going to go a little bit deeper. To persevere means to persist in a state, enterprise, or undertaking in spite of counter influences, opposition, or discouragement. Let's go one step further. Persist. To go on resolutely or stubbornly in spite of opposition or warning. Obsolete. To remain unchanging or fixed in a specific character, condition, or position. To be insistent in the repetition or pressing of an utterance, such as a question or an opinion. And finally, to continue to exist, especially past a usual, expected, or normal time. I love all these definitions. There's a lot to unpack there. Before we do that, I want to tell you a little story. A few weeks ago, I headed out to LA to interview a future guest for JumbleThink. It was a very fun time getting to talk to him about his career and everything he's done and everything he is doing. When we wrapped up the episode and the recording of the interview, we were just chatting afterwards. And he said, you know, my wife who does my scheduling and my booking is super happy to have this off her plate. She commented to me about how perseverant you were. And to me, that stood out. I was like, oh, okay, is that good or bad? And he was like, you know, a lot of people give up when it comes to booking guests that they really want, and especially guests that are super well known. And he said, you didn't do that. You kept building that relationship, reaching out, following up, and it led to me being on your show. He said, you showed real perseverance. And he even said, that's what my wife said to me, is like, he is super perseverant. And I was able to get that interview because of the perseverance, and hopefully along the way build a great relationship with her and with him. Why did I tell this story, you may ask? Well, I tell it because a couple things. One, the things that you really want to achieve, the maybe guests if you have a podcast, or the relationships with a potential investor for your business, or the contacts for building out your business, you may need to build a relationship with them. You may need that perseverance before they're ready to have the conversation you want to have with them. It's that perseverance that gets you from not knowing the person, not being in proximity to them, not having contact with them, to opening up the doors to building a relationship with them and having the conversations you want. Now, I'm not saying that perseverance is about being a jerk. Definitely not saying that. I'm not saying perseverance is about just nagging somebody. Not saying that at all either. What I am saying is perseverance is the consistency from getting from where you are to where you want to be. It's the putting in the time and work and effort to open up the conversations you need to have. It's about being consistent over and over again with the people you are working with. It's this process of saying, you know what, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm going in the right direction. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep opening those doors. I'm going to keep having those conversations. Perseverance often is the difference between those people who see massive breakthroughs and those who get stuck, who don't see the things that they want to see accomplished reached. Now, we had kicked off this segment talking about the definition of perseverance. There were a lot of things that stood out to me in that first part. The word stubborn stuck out to me. Fixed in your direction or character, that stood out to me. The insistence of repetition stood out to me. To persist in spite of opposition or discouragement stood out to me. And the one I think that stood out to me the most was continued effort despite difficulties and failure. This, I think, is the best definition of perseverance in my mind. That you continue the effort, the work of going on the path that you are on despite the difficulties and despite the failure. Oftentimes, it's when we hit that effort, the unexpected effort, or obstacles, or difficulties, that we turn around and say, you know what? This is not worth it. I'm going to give up. I'm going to turn around and go back to where I've been. If you want to change the world, if you want to make your idea a reality, if you want to impact the people around you, perseverance is the way you have to do it, because often you are going against the status quo. You are going against the known commodity. You're going against traditional thought, and you are defining a new way. And I love that this specific definition uses the word effort. When we have big ideas and dreams, we want it to be easy, we want it to be quick, and we want it to be successful. And success being defined by sometimes ourselves, but often it's defined by the people around us, our friends, our family, our coworkers, or even not specific people, but what you think others perceive you as in the community that is around you. And that's where effort comes in. It's not the easy way to get to where you want to go. It's actually the much harder way. And despite that, you keep on going to overcome the difficulties, the failure, the rejection, the fear, to see the end result achieved. For you, you may be looking at your existing journey and say, you know what? It was okay. Let's go back. And you may be right there right now saying, the new way, the future way, the way I know I want to create, it's cool, it's good, but it's not easy. And so I'm not willing to give the effort to get to the place I want. All right, we've laid a good groundwork on what perseverance is all about. And perseverance is often the tool that gets you to where you want to be or what you want to achieve. But how do you actually build the superpower of perseverance? Let's take a look at that. Tool number one is a very simple one. Define your why. Or as Simon Sinek says, start with why. Start with why. But what is your why? A why can be what motivates you. What is it that keeps you going? Your why can be the impact you have. It could be your passion, your purpose. There are many ways to define that word why. But your why becomes a guiding post, a signpost to lead you to the right direction in this journey of perseverance. When you define that why, it is a place you can retreat to when things aren't going your way, when you face obstacles, fears, and failures. You can step back and really remember, why did I start this journey? When you have that why, it redirects you back onto the things that you matter or matter to you. You may say your why is to build a better lifestyle for your family. So you step back from a failure, from an obstacle, from a letdown, from whatever it is for you that's been that barrier on the journey, and you go, oh, I'm doing this for my family. Well, why am I doing this for my family? I'm doing it for my family because I love them and I want a better life for them. Why would that matter? Because by doing this, I'll get more time to spend with them. I'll get more money to have the resources to live a secure life, or whatever that is in that journey of defining it as for your family. You come back to that why, and it gives you a new motivation to keep on the journey of persevering, to keep on going, because it reminds you of what matters. Maybe your why is because you want to help children in Africa. And you go, I'm building this big business. Maybe it's like something like Tom's Shoes. And I want to give kids around the world shoes when they don't have shoes. And you go and you say, this is a great idea. We're going to sell a pair and give a pair. And people say you're crazy. And you go home and you put your head on the desk and you just go, am I crazy? Is this a stupid idea? Maybe I should just build a business, make a lot of money, and just give that money away. Or maybe I shouldn't worry about this. This problem is too big for me. But they were able to come back and say, no, our why is that we want to help kids that need help. And we can do this through a new model. And it helps for them to stay on the same journey of perseverance to get to the other side. Maybe your why looks a little bit different. Maybe your why is to have the freedom to travel more. And so you go, I want to work less. And you go, well, to work less, I have to make more money in the time that I do work. And so you start rethinking how you structured your business or how you are as an employee. And you go, what can I do to get from here to there? And you may have hit a major setback, but now you're like, hey, you know what? I have a new solution. Let me reevaluate where I am and evolve my idea, but my why has stayed the same, to get that place of travel. So right now in the journey of perseverance, I want you to take a few moments and just think about, what is the why that keeps you going on this journey that you're on to reaching those dreams and ideas that you have. Get back to the basics. Get back to the place where you know the core, the foundation of why you are moving forward. Tool number 2 is community, or broadly said, the people around you. Those are so significant, those relationships. Whether it's a business relationship, a personal relationship, community is going to define your success or failure in the journey of perseverance, the power of perseverance to making your dreams and ideas a reality. If you have a community that's constantly discouraging you, you're not going to get to the dreams and ideas you have, because you're always going to be held back by that community. On the flip side, your community is going to be able to help you see things you can't see. Sometimes those are good things that you should be celebrating and excited about. And sometimes those are bad things that are holding you back. And the community can be your eyes to encouragement. Like, you're onto something. You're almost there. Just keep going. They're your cheerleaders. Or they can be your sounding board to say, you know what, you're so close. If you just shift this one thing or change this one thing, it's going to open up the doors to your dreams and ideas. Your community is the foundation of seeing beyond yourself. Your community is your foundation for reminding you of why you're doing what you're doing. This community around you is there to support you, but it's also there to challenge you. And so community is massively important on this journey of perseverance to making your dreams and ideas a reality. If you have the wrong community, you need to change your community. If you have a good community, just keep growing that. Well, who could be in your community? Who should be in your community? Your family should be a part of this journey of perseverance. They should be your cheerleaders. They should also be there saying, you know what, you got to get up. You got to keep going. Maybe you need to reevaluate, or like, hey, you can't give up. Your family should be your first line of cheerleaders. And if your family can't be there and you talk to them and they're like, hey, we're just not interested, then you've got to figure out how to build a family around you that supports you. Then beyond your community, if this is a dream to be a teacher, then you should get around teachers that have already been on that journey and they can help you get to where you need to go and talk about the education process, talk to you about finding the right jobs. If you are wanting to be an engineer, get around engineers. So whatever it is that you're trying to go towards, where you're trying to grow into, what you're trying to build, get around those people that have already been down the road. Or if it's going somewhere that you've never been, that they can be a part of that sounding board to say, hey, you know what? That's a really cool idea. Maybe I can look at this a little bit differently and help you see what you're not seeing. And again, that's that sounding board there. So if you're an entrepreneur, then you need to get around to other entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs. I would say, though, that you want to make sure that these are people filled with gratitude and thankfulness, that they're filled with joy and they're filled with excitement for the future. If you're getting around negative Nellies, you're just going to be drugged down by them. So even if they're industry experts in the space you're trying to grow and go towards, you need to have the right people there to encourage you. So for you, you may want to look there. So those are your mentors, your coaches, your consultants that they know the roadmap and they can help you get there. That's another part of community. Another part of community can be your customers. Your customers are going to give you a lot of feedback, what they love about what you're doing, what they hate about what you're doing, and they're a part of your community. You need to include them in the story. A couple of days ago, I got a Kickstarter update from a Kickstarter I supported like 7 years ago. Super cool company. And the guy came out and said, I want to apologize. I didn't communicate to my community what was going on, the failures of our project, the struggles that we were encountering, the problems that we were having. And he said the journey got very lonely. And he just sucked it up and made it happen and kept on the journey. But how much easier would it have been to get his community that believed in him, that loved what he was creating, to rally around him and be that sounding board of like, hey, can we help? Or encouraging him like, hey, just keep going. You're going to get this. So in that process, your customers are so important in that community. And beyond that, you're also going to need just some good old-fashioned friends. People that you can count on, people that are going to be there when things fall apart, people that are going to be there when things are all going well, things that people you could look at and say, you know what, no matter what happens, we're on this journey together. So those are some of the places that you need to find community so that you can build an effective lifestyle, a superpower of perseverance. Tool number 3, calmness in the fire. When things go well, we're all excited and that's good. And we need to be excited, but you can't always stay there. You need to be calm in those great moments, but it's especially important when things are going poorly. You need to keep on going when things are rough. So if you are frantic, things will feel a billion times worse. If you have bad perspective, things will always seem worse. So you need to keep that calmness in the line of fire. How can you do that? Well, number 1, be really honest about the situation. The good, the bad, the ugly, but don't overly build up the demons you're facing and the problems you're facing beyond what they actually are. Many of us take a problem that might be a 1 or 2 out of 10 and we escalate that into a 6. Or we take a 5 problem or 6 problem and make it a 10. Having good perspective really helps you. Beyond that, overreacting, even if it's traumatic, even if it's a 10 on the scale of problems, being frantic about it will never help you. It will make the situation harder. So you need to take the time to calm down, to find center again in your perspective, in your joy and your gratitude, and you need to get back to that place of finding calmness. When you approach a problem with calmness, all of a sudden it seems much smaller of an issue. It gives you the freedom to go, you know what? We're going to try this. We're going to try that. And so you've got to find that place of calmness. From there, you can continue to persevere. When the world seems like it's crushing in on you, when things seem too big for you, you need to step away, get into a place of calmness where you can refresh, where you can rejuvenate, where you can really, really find new, fresh hope. With that, I'm going to give you a second little tip as a part of the calmness in the fire. As an entrepreneur who's been doing this for 13 years now, as a person that's led departments at churches, as a pastor, as a person who has worked in businesses and helped big corporations, one of the things that I keep coming back to that is critical, maybe it's just for me, but I think it's for all of us, and we overlook, is the importance of sleep. If you are frantic, you need to get some sleep so you can get that calmness, so your brain can refresh. Some of the best ideas happen when I'm sleeping. Some of the best perspective happens when I'm refreshed. So if you want to find that calmness in the fire, you cannot burn the oil at all hours. You have to take the break. You have to step back and say, you know what? This isn't working. But me being exhausted, me killing myself over not sleeping, eating, exercising, it's not going to work. I'm going to take the time to sleep. I'm going to find that calmness, and I'm going to recenter myself for the future. Now, for me, as a person of faith, I also think part of finding calmness is finding God in the situation. It means stepping back and seeing his perspective on a situation that does not seem right, fair, unjust. It seems out of my control. It seems bigger than myself. Finding him in this and depending on him, going to that place of prayer and meditation to seek him, is a powerful tool in finding that calmness that leads to wholeness in perspective. That leads me to a place of good perspective for perseverance. So, you may not like that tip with the part that's about prayer. You may not like that part about finding rest. The hustle is a lie. Don't believe the lie. Believe the truth, which means you need good rest. You need to be a whole person. You need to be a person that is energized and has the refreshing power of sleep. Something like I said, I work on every day. It's something I struggle with, something I'm trying to overcome and become better at. So for you, what is it that you can do to bring that calmness in the line of fire? Tool number 4 is reflection. I hinted at this when I said about prayer and meditation, but reflection is about perspective, and perspective allows you to have perseverance. Reflection allows you to step back and see from outside of your situation. It's about readjusting that perspective so that you can see clearly. When you reflect, you're taking stock of what is and what isn't. You're taking stock of what's working, what is failing, and you're really realigning to that place of finding truth. Reflection allows you to step out of your situation and see yourself as others would see you. This is about understanding the truth of your situation. When you persevere, you have to have good perspective. If you don't have good perspective, you can't move forward, and you can't have perspective without reflection. So how do you reflect so that you can move into a place of perseverance? Step number 1, slow down. Every time I rush, I give a poor product. Don't rush. Slow down. That leads you to a place to have time to think, to process, to ask questions, to reflect. Tool number 2 in reflection is simply writing it down. I know it sounds silly, but take time to step back and say, I'm just going to journal. How did my day go? What worked? What didn't work? Here's an exercise we did with our team for a long time, and it was about efficiency, but it really wasn't about efficiency. It was about reflection and about understanding what you're good and bad at, what's working, what isn't working. So what we had our team do a couple years ago is that we gave them all a timesheet. And it wasn't a check-in, check-out. You got to put your time for the amount of work you did. Had nothing to do with that. I don't even think we necessarily had a timestamp. But what we did is we gave different categories for each team member. We said, this team member is a designer, so how much is this a designing task is this? a brainstorming task? Is this a client task? Is this a communication task? And they kind of figured out what they were that they did most often. And they stepped back and said, these are the spaces in which I work within the business. Now, each task, when they wrote it down, they said, I spent 10 minutes here on this, and it was a design project. I spent 20 minutes here, and it was a brainstorming thing, and they gave some details about it. And they weren't necessarily about turning it into me. I didn't actually look at a lot of people's sheets. What it did was it allowed us to have conversation. What's working? Where are you finding the pitfalls? Where are you finding what is holding you back? Where are your pain points of what you're not good at? What can we do to strengthen those? And where do you excel? And how can we get you right projects to make sure you're excelling? And so that was actually a practice of reflection about their efficiencies, about what they are and aren't doing, where they're spending time, so that we could reevaluate how they could be better fitted into the team and the ethos and the community that we were building at Woodward Design Group. That tool allowed people to assess what was going on so that they could have the power of persevering effectively in their business. So for you, you may be going, you know what, I'm a CEO, I'm so busy, and you don't actually know where your time is going, and you're like, I worked, 200 hours a week, and I don't understand how I don't have any time for sleep and for friends and for family and for getting things done. I feel like I'm not getting anything done. And you sit down and you start doing this. You just take pen and paper and you write it out for a week. And you look back and you go, oh, out of those 200 hours, I spent an hour just responding to emails. And you may go, you know what? Maybe it's time for a personal assistant. Maybe it's time for a virtual assistant. Maybe it's time that I stop taking emails from everyone and only focus on our top 2 or 3 clients. Getting that reflection gives you perspective. That perspective gives you changes so you can persevere through your situation. Reflection, so powerful in the journey of chasing dreams and ideas. And we are just scratching the surface on reflection. Maybe we'll do a full episode about that topic. And our final tool for today on perseverance is remembering your acharit. And we've talked about this in past episodes. And you're like, acharit, what in the world does that mean? The end result of your action. At the beginning of the tools that we gave you, I said define your why. This is about where you want to arrive. Now, your arrival destination will change on the journey of chasing ideas and dreams. It will evolve. It will morph. It will be impacted by the things you don't know. It will be impacted by the situations you face. But at the end of the day, perseverance is about remembering where you want to arrive. I said earlier, your why might be to spend more time with your family. The end goal of that, the why you may want to do that is because you want to love your children, or you want to spend more time with your wife because you really like hanging out with her. You may be looking at it and going, okay, cool. Well, how's that different than your end goal? Well, your end goal is painting that picture. What is the picture you are building? It's defining it. It's illustrating it for yourself. People sometimes call this a vision wall, and you may actually have a physical vision wall, and you go, my dreams and ideas are to have a collection of classic cars, and so you put pictures of that. My dreams and ideas are to stop renting a house and buying a house, so you might put a picture of that. Your dreams and ideas might be going on a vacation to Italy with your family because of the time that you now have, because you've prioritized your family and what you're doing. And so you may step back and put a picture of that up on the wall. You may write down the list and say, these are things I want to get to, and this is the vehicle that allows me to get there. So for you, whatever that journey is, start thinking about your acharit, that end result of your actions. And then what you need to do is take assessment of where you are in that journey. Oftentimes we think that we are set back in big ways, but what we may find out is we're set back in one, but we've taken 1 billion steps in another area. So for you, remembering that end goal gives you a measuring stick of like, have we arrived? No, we haven't arrived, but we're a lot closer. We haven't arrived, but we're seeing a lot of breakthrough in this one area. And then figure out those weaknesses and evolve those and grow those and rethink how you're going to solve those problems so that you can get to the place of success. So those are my tools for you today to how you can have perseverance. There are many more tools in the arsenal of perseverance, and we'll probably revisit this topic 1 billion more times before even the next year is over. maybe even before season 3 is over. Perseverance isn't the only tool that you need in the journey of chasing big ideas and dreams, but it is a tool that is massively important. It is a superpower that will unlock a future of your dreams and ideas. Without perseverance, you will give up before you see the results of your action. You'll give up often right before something amazing happens. So, if you are in the place of feeling like you are ready to give up, I hope today's episode has encouraged you on that journey of saying, you know what? My dreams and ideas matter. I matter. The things inside of me, I was created for purpose to create. And hopefully you are taking a step back right now. If you're struggling with this and saying, you know what? Not where I want to go. Things aren't perfect. This is a season of transition for me. I'm almost ready to give up, but the reality is tomorrow's a new day. And for you, I want to encourage you. I believe you were created for something awesome. I believe that you were created to see your dreams and ideas impact the world, to change the world, to be a beacon of hope and light and love to those around you. I believe that your purpose will bring foundational shifts in a culture filled with hopelessness, that it will bring new hope and new love to places that people have given up. I believe that the only difference between people who change the world and people who don't are the people that do get out there and do it. So if you're on that journey, I want to encourage you. It may seem dark right now. You may feel discouraged right now. You may feel like giving up. If that's you, drop me a note, hello@jumblethink.com. You can even email it directly to me, mike@jumblethink.com. I'd love to hear what's going on. I'd love to encourage you on that journey. I'd love to be that cheerleader for you to say, you know what? You're doing well. Keep going. Keep going. You're almost there. Amazing things are happening. Well, today we covered a lot of ground. We talked about perseverance, a lot more to cover there. You can check out our past episode where we talked about the power of perseverance. I also want to remind you, there's a lot going on here at Jumble Think. We would love to connect with you. We'd love to do this journey of chasing dreams and ideas with you. There's a couple ways to do that. Sign up for our newsletter, jumblethink.com. Sign up there. Follow us, or let's be friends on your favorite social media channel like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We'd also love to invite you to our first ever virtual idea camps coming up really soon. We'd also love to have you join us for our first ever idea camps this spring or late winter. So you can check that out, jumblethink.com/idea camps. We also talked about we're changing some things up with the podcast. We're launching a new podcast, talking to entrepreneurs, doing a lot of what we do here. And we're getting this podcast back to our original DNA, which was all about the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers. And finally, I answered 3 questions from our friends online, all about entrepreneurship. These were things that hit my mailbox, my inbox this week, actually. So if you missed any of this, if you're listening on the radio right now, you can check out this episode by going on over to jumblethink.com. You can click on the podcast link and you'll see links to listen to this whole episode. You can also go and subscribe. And if you haven't already, go to your favorite place to listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Search for Jumble Think Podcast and click that magical subscribe button. Now, my final thought for today's episode. Whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you are not, it doesn't matter. You were created for purpose. Your dream may be to teach a new generation of people. That's awesome. Go for it. Get into that. If your dream is about starting the next best tech startup ever to exist, go do it. Take those ideas and dreams and make them a reality. If your dream is to be an amazing parent, to launch your children into the futures, the dreams, the ideas, the destinies they have, be the best parent you can. No matter what your dream and idea is, whether it's a vocation or whether it's a passion, you are created for something awesome. Your life matters. Your impact ripples through thousands, if not millions of people. Your one act of compassion, of kindness, of love for your family, of love of your friends, it is a huge impact that you will never understand. So today, I'll leave you with this final thought. The world needs you. When you step up to the plate, you are giving back to a world that needs amazing people just like you. So it's your turn. It's your turn to make those risks. It's your turn to persevere when you feel like giving up. It's your turn to step up into the unknown and say, you know what? I don't know where this is going, but I know that the journey is worth it. I know that the sacrifice will pay off. I know that the future is better than the past and that the best days are ahead. So get out there, dream big, and change the world around you.
Bien saisi la technique que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.